Over the past 75 years, more than 10,000 chemicals have entered our food supply, but the EU allows just 300 additives. At Thrive Market, we prioritize quality, banning over 1,000 ingredients found in conventional grocery stores. Our Healthy Swap scanner helps you find better versions of your pantry essentials without the junk, dyes, or fillers, and everything is delivered right to your doorstep. So shop at a grocery store that actually cares about your health at thrivemarket.com/getstarted for 30% off your first order and a free $60 gift.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Well, I made some discoveries tonight. Number one, you gotta put the mic up a little higher. And number two, this microphone right here needs a boost. So I've been reading up on this microphone. I kept asking myself, why is the gain on this thing so low? I'll get into that later. But first, but wait, there's more. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct, right here on the SHR Media Network in the sumptuous and palatial SHR Media Studios, where the core temperature, for those of you who give a crap about me, is a balmy 82 degrees inside the studio. Now, customarily, when it's 82 degrees, I don my Arctic parka. However, because we're on now, and you can see me on YouTube, and you can see me on Facebook, I have since doffed my Arctic parka because it doesn't look really good. In any event, you got to belly up to the bar. We've kept your seat. It's great to see you back. Tashay is going to be your bartendress tonight. She pours with the best of them. Where the hell is the lava lamp? Get in there, lamp. No, shoot. There we go. Okay, pull it back. There you go, BC. Shoot. Man, I should have had that done before I got here. The lava lamp is lighted. We don't water our drinks just yet, like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all here at the saloon. Nothing is sacred. The speech is free. But the booze is not. All that we ask is you flush the toilet, jiggle the handle, and don't forget to tip your waitress. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is Tuesday. It's June 26th. We're almost out of June. We have almost ran dry of June, the year of our Lord, 2018. And it's a 2-hour show, and I have it broken down into this fashion. Hour one is going to be an SHR special report, and that's going to be the powder keg right beneath the United States of America. We're going to have a break at the top of the hour. We'll come back in the second hour with KARI BAXTER DONOVAN. She's got a lot of stuff to talk about. She stayed. Oh, how wonderful this must be able to be. She stayed at the Trump Tower in Virginia somewhere. I don't think it was in D.C. I'm going to have to ask her about that. And, of course, she's got a whole bunch of stories to tell about that and other things as well. And then tomorrow night is going to be the Sackheads Against Tyranny. No, Sackhead Sean is not going to be here. Sackhead Sean is away. He's not even in Sacramento right now. But it will be Sackheads Clint and moi right here. And already it's a packed showroom. So thanks and welcome to Traveling Cynic, the cynic who travels. Mary Brockman, Whiskey Dale, Dave Milner is here in chat. Great to see you, Mary Brockman, and one viewer. Oh, and I'm in chat as well. Just like everything else, just when I think that things couldn't get... I've said this now for a long time. Just when you think that things couldn't get more crazy, they instead get more crazy. And there's a ton of stuff to tell you about, but I want to start off the hour, or I want to start off the show in this fashion because it's a topic near and dear to me, and I have to try to emphasize its importance not only just to me, but to you by way of this.
This is an SHR Media Network special report.
And I don't do special reports very much, except this one is so exceptionally important that I need to bring it to you immediately, and that's why we're going to talk about it up front. And that is the powder keg that sits directly beneath the United States of America. Now, by most standards, there are 7 continents on our planet, and they include Africa, Antarctica, Asia, Australia, Europe, North America, and South America. We all live here, at least most of the people within the sound of my voice live in North America. The continent directly beneath us, beneath North America, South America, threatens us in ways that I submit altogether too many people don't realize and recognize, from our politicians right down to our electorate. You and me, we are aware, and all our bells and claxons are going off, and they've been going off quite some time. And I'm going to tell you tonight in the first hour why that is. We already know that both major U.S. parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, have been corrupted into promoting the continuing rush of more illegals from Mexico. Now, I've always said that I value clarity and honesty, so let's be honest and clear if we can. The Democrats want as many illegals as possible to enter the United States because its present citizenry can no longer be counted on to vote leftist en masse in perpetuity. And it really is no more complicated than that. The election of Donald John Trump was the proverbial political turd in the punch bowl, and after that, everything changed. And I mean everything. And then altogether, all too many establish-hack Republicans, well, let's be blunt, they want to utilize immigrants as cheap labor. They want to keep their capitalist friends happy. And I have nothing against capitalism. I really don't. I just want the playing field tilted towards actual American citizens. Just saying. So I think it's shockingly easy to draw this conclusion, no matter what Republicans say. And they've been saying some ridiculous things and doing some ridiculous things recently. For one very simple reason, especially the Republicans. The GOP has not rallied around E-Verify and sent bill after bill after bill demanding that all U.S. businesses comply with its usage. E-Verify right now, it just exists in the ether. It isn't mandatory. It's just kind of sort of, it's a hint. Yeah, there it is. You can use it. And I rest my case with regard to the Republicans. So I want you to listen to Ron Paul. He illustrates absolutely perfectly why I separate with libertarians on 2 major issues. He makes a straw man argument here instead of the one that he should make. Real Americans keeping real American jobs.
But the system that we have today is very much of a stimulant for the police state. And you brought that up, Chris, in your question. Yes, I think the police state, just rounding up people. How many people would you need to round up 11 million people?
He's making an assumption that it's a police state because you stop people from, or you at least attempt to stop people from coming in completely unblocked into your sovereign nation. If you don't have borders, you don't have sovereignty, and you don't have a sovereign nation. Ron Paul. But I want to continue with him because his opinion now is running and bleeding over into leftists.
How would you sort them out? And it would everybody you'd send back would be a suspect. You can't give them due process, take them through a legitimate court that would last a long period of time. And how many American citizens would be rounded up, too? So it's just not practical. There's things that we can do to try to...
Well, he's talking about, and it's true, the impracticality of going out and attempting to round up all the citizens in the United States all the people in the United States that are illegal. Now, it's interesting. I just heard this statistic recently, and I'll get back to Ron Paul in just a moment. The common thought is that there are anywhere between 10 to 11 to 12 million illegals in the United States of America. And I forget where I saw this statistic. You guys can probably run it in your favorite search engine. But I heard recently that that's way false. There are up to 15 to 20 million illegals in this country.
Change the policies that won't keep this process going. But to say that deportation will work, I think is just there's no chance that that's going to do much good. But we have to change policies, our border policies, and also this temptation. Not only would we have to have an army of people rounding up these potential illegal immigrants, Trump has come out with expanding E-Verify. I've worked for several years on this when I was in Congress. E-Verify is a national ID card, and he wants to...
Really, Ron Paul, a national ID card. Why don't you put on your thinking cap, sir, and try to figure out ways, instead of just complaining about how you manage to keep people from wanting to come into the country in the first place? Because if the jobs dry up, and there's so much more than that. We will get into it. We will definitely get into it. But if we can just somehow manage to figure out a way to dry up the jobs, that is to say the impetus, the reasoning for people, illegals, to come into this nation, you'd be a far step ahead of everything else.
What does he want to E-Verify is that everybody in this country would have to be electronically verified by the federal government approving you being hired to get another job. That's a horror. And the expansion of that.
Now I think you understand why I'm not a big L libertarian.
To find out and round up illegal immigrants, I think...
Stop right there. You don't have to round up illegal immigrants. All you have to do is what we did, damn it, Jim, in the 80s. I was in the correctional system. When someone would come down the ramp that I thought was perhaps an illegal immigrant, I made a copy of that person's name, because generally the officers that were booking these people, that is to say, arrestees. These were not people that were just found on the street. These are arrestees that came into the jail. And at the end of the 8-hour watch, ICE, or actually it was then the USBP, would call me and say, hey, do you have any people that you think we ought to talk to find out if they're illegals? And I said, yes, I do. Here's their names, their ex-refs, etc. And they would come down, and USBP agents would interview each and every one of those persons to discover whether, in fact, they believed they really were illegal immigrants in this country, wrongly, illegally.
Very dangerous. So this...
You don't have to round up anybody. All you have to do is let the criminality work against them.
This is a serious problem. Has to be dealt with by changing our immigration policies, and of course also thinking about other alternatives of how we're going to handle those 11 million people that we see now.
Way underreported. I believe it's much more than that. But yeah, all right. Let me let Ron Paul finish, and then I'm going to make a point over Ron Paul.
As not a practical thing to think we can round them up and send them all home, wherever that is.
Well, you don't need to do that. What you need to do, the thing that I want to point out about this audio cut that I just played for you is, did you notice, and I want you to notice, that there are all these complaints about what we shouldn't do, and that's true of the leftists as well. There's all sorts of Sturm und Drang about you can't do this, and you can't do that, and you ought not to be doing this. What's your answer? What's your immediate answer for what we need to do? Well, we know what that immediate answer is. And that's the point of this program tonight. And we'll get to this. Now, Mark Kokorian at MarketWatch.com happened to make this comment about E-Verify. In a sense, universal use of E-Verify would be a major step toward making legal status a labor standard. Few employees are tempted to hire children, after all, and that's only partly out of fear of punishment. It's become a social norm, a habit not to hire kids. But while it's easy to tell if a job applicant is an 11-year-old, employers need E-Verify to tell if he's a legal worker. Why isn't E-Verify already in use nationwide? Politics. One word, politics. Democrats in Congress have held E-Verify hostage to amnesty. They consider it a bargaining chip. But the source of the public resistance to amnesty is the belief, the certainty, that it would simply be a replay of 1986 with the promises of future enforcement dropped as soon as the amnesty was complete. So mandating E-Verify would not only be an important enforcement tool, it would also be an important political step towards resolving our current immigration mess. And so he says, in other words, why not try to stop those tempted to enter the U.S. illegally before they actually approach the physical proximity of our southern border? Doesn't that make the most sense of all, at least in terms of the jobs aspect? Further, here's this other issue. H-1B visas are popular in the GOP world because they enable corporations to kick Americans aside for their less expensive and eminently willing replacements. After all, why shouldn't Prakeem Prakesh take your job when he's willing to work at a lesser wage rate than you are? The penultimate selfish Americano bastardo bastardette. You're a cog. You must be replaced by a cheaper cog doing the same job. Disney's already kicked out Americans for cheaper H-1B imports, and that's why I don't like Disney anymore. Worse yet, those Americans were forced to train their foreign replacements. Here's an article, Pink Slips at Disney, but first training foreign replacements. This is in Orlando, Florida. The employees who kept the data systems humming in the vast Walt Disney fantasy world did not suspect trouble when they were suddenly summoned to meetings with their boss. While families rode the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and searched for Nemo in theme parks, these workers monitored computers in industrial buildings nearby, making sure millions of Walt Disney World ticket sales, store purchases, and hotel reservations went through without a hitch. Some were performing so well that they thought they'd been called in for bonuses. But wait. Instead, about 250 Disney employees were told in late October that they would be laid off last year. Many of these jobs were transferred to immigrants on temporary visas for highly skilled technical workers who were brought in by an outsourcing firm based in India. Over the next 3 months, some Disney employees were required to train their replacements to do the jobs they had lost. I just couldn't believe they would fly people in to sit at our desks and take over our jobs exactly, said one former worker, an American in his 40s who remains unemployed since his last day at Disney on January 30th. It was so humiliating to train somebody else to take over your job. I still can't grasp it. Disney executives said that layoffs were part of a reorganization and that the company opened more positions than it eliminated. Pablum words. Okay, so it's like this. Thank you and fuck you. Get out. Oh, yeah, train your replacement first. But wait. Oh, there's more. There's so much more. We haven't even touched the issue of merit-based immigration. It's the same type of immigration system that Canada has. Make sure you don't tell anybody that Canada has had literally for years. Chinese immigrants to Canada had to have an occupational skill and a minimum of $10,000 bankable for entry to Canada. Okay, for once, Canada had a great idea. Yay, Canucks. Good idea. Then there was the cry of the political refugee or the asylum seeker, and that's what's occurring today. Mexico, Central America, South America. These areas are political, societal, cultural, and budgetary powder kegs waiting to explode into our North American faces. It isn't just about Mexico. No, not anymore. These days, you'd be stupid to take the former Mexican Riviera cruise on any number of cruise lines. You'd be just as likely to be killed or kidnapped at Cabo San Lucas as you would in, Juarez anymore. No more King's X for Cabo Wabo. If you want hanging dead bodies, then you can look no further than Cabo San Lucas. 6 bodies hung from bridges near Mexico's Los Cubos tourist resort. The bodies of 6 men were found hanging from 3 different bridges near the Mexican tourist resort of Los Cabos on the Baja California Peninsula on Wednesday, local authorities said. The authorities did not give details on what happened to the men, but drug gangs often hang the bodies of their murdered victims in public to intimidate rivals. Drug gang violence is set to make 2017 and 2018 Mexico's deadliest year in modern history. Okay, so these are once friendly tourist areas in Mexico, and apparently not so much now. What it really is time to call for more tequila. On your own back porch, folks. It's happening right here, right next to the United States, because the dirty little secret, the dirty little lie, the dirty little concealed truth is this from theguardian.com. And again, I had to go across the pond to find this out. The headline reads, breathtaking homicidal violence. Latin America is in the grip of a murder crisis. The region has experienced a 2.5 million murder rate since 2000, and reports paint a bleak picture of extreme violence and deteriorating security. Latin America has suffered more than 2.5 million murders since the start of this century and is facing an acute public security crisis that demands urgent and innovative solutions, a new report warned. The sheer dimensions of homicidal violence are breathtaking, says the report by the Igrape Institute, a Brazil-based think tank focused on security and development issues. The publication, released on Thursday, paints a bleak portrait of what it calls the world's most homicidal continent. Oh, but wait, there's more. Wait for it. Latin America, and here comes some stats. Damn these stats. Latin America suffers 33% of the world's homicides, despite only having 8% of the population. 1/4 of all global homicides are concentrated in 4 countries: Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, and Venezuela, all of which are gearing up for presidential elections in which security is a dominant theme. The overall trend right now in Latin America is one of increasing homicides and deteriorating security, says Robert Muga, one of the report's authors. Latin America is a large area, and there are lots of variations, but as a region, including Mexico down to Central America and South America, the rate of homicide is set to continue increasing until up to 2030. The only other places we see having similar kinds of increases are in parts of southern and central Africa and, wait for it, war zones. Now, perchance it's time to dial back your enthusiasm for a future Mexican, Central, or South American vacation fling. The overall trend right now in Latin America is one of increasing homicides and deteriorating security. Latin America is a large area, and there are lots of variations, but as a region, it's increasing, and the violence is not set to stop. Well, what might there be in terms of some of those reasons, by the way? This is a magazine that deals with it.
Statistically, the world's most violent region. We will take a look at why and what can be done to reduce the number of killings. Hello, I'm Anand Naidu, and this is The Heat.
As we're waiting for this, if you think I'm stopping at Mexico, by the way, you'd be wrong.
Homicides occur in Latin America, a region with just 8% of the global population. It's an eye-opening statistic coming from a report released last month by a think tank based in Rio de Janeiro. CGTN's Lucrecia Franco has the story.
Poverty, drugs, police corruption and guns. The streets of Latin America's dense urban slums are bathed in blood, a problem that is only getting worse. In Rostinha, one of Rio de Janeiro's most notorious favelas, flowers for widows and orphans. T-shirts read, "More love, less violence." It is a call for peace, police.
Right, because hashtags and quotations certainly take care of that stuff.
Mere steps away. Just how common the suffering is across the region is only now coming to light. According to a report just released, 2.5 million people were murdered in the region since the year 2000, of which 80% were men. Published by the Rio-based Igarapé Institute, the report says that is...
Here's another statistic, by the way. What is not taken into account in this report is, on the accompanying concomitant link of that, how many thousands of women do you think were raped in Central America and South America?
The homicide rate more than 3 times the global average. Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, and Venezuela alone account for a quarter of all murders on Earth. One of the report's authors signals a number of factors to explain the region's soaring crime rates.
Like I said, the report also indicates that up to a third of the murders on the planet are occurring down in Central and Southern America.
The first big one is runaway urbanization. We have cities that are urbanizing before they industrialize, and it creates a large amount of social disorder. The second factor is income inequality. High levels of income inequality are statistically associated with high rates of violence. Third factor is youth unemployment. We have a huge youth bulge of 15 to 29-year-olds who just don't have employment and low opportunities. And so they tend to join organized crime groups. And the final set of factors are drugs and guns.
With a monopoly on cocaine production, criminal groups can easily buy guns in a thriving black market that includes police and former guerrilla groups. It is a dangerous cocktail that Muga says plays into the hands of a certain brand of politics.
Call this in the region mano dura style policing, heavy fist. These kinds of solutions...
He hasn't even mentioned the corruption of the military and also of the police forces themselves.
They may win votes, and they may bring comfort to certain politicians and the elite, but what we see over and over is they don't result in reductions of violence. What they do is they result in a lot of deaths, mass incarceration, and often a generation of new people who might be recruited into gangs.
The heavy fist isn't going away. Brazil's current presidential frontrunner, Jair Bolsonaro, wants to relax gun laws and pursue aggressive law enforcement.
To defend the people, I want a civil police force and military that shoot to kill.
Igarapé says some creative...
But how do you get to this point? You have to ask yourself, how did we get to this point?
Prevention programs in the region have resulted in dramatically reduced homicide rates. But without the political will to change, people will be left with only gestures and grim statistics. Lucrecia Franco, CGTN, Rio de Janeiro.
Okay, then there's simply the issue of Venezuela itself. Nicolas Maduro was elected again, by the way, and has been the 63rd president of the country since 2013 under the United Socialist Party of Venezuela. In the meantime, following the reign of Hugo Chavez and his death, Maduro has managed to turn Venezuela into a ruined nation where people have eaten zoo animals, are turning their children over to orphanages because they can't afford to take care of them. They sell their hair. There are mob riots over food shortages. Almost 90% of Venezuelans live in poverty and on average have lost 24 pounds. Currency controls restrict food imports. Hyperinflation eats into salaries, and people line up for hours just to buy basics like flour, if it can be found at all. Concurrently, prices in Venezuela rose 4,068% in the 12 months to the end of January, according to estimates by the country's opposition-led National Assembly, broadly in line with independent economist figures. Nations bordering Venezuela, they too are pulling their proverbial hair out, and they're directly affected. This is an article from VenezuelaAnalysis.com. Colombia, Brazil deploy more security forces to the Venezuelan border. Colombia says it will send more than 2,000 more troops to its border with Venezuela, with Brazil replicating the exact same measure. On Thursday, Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos said he had ordered the deployment of 3,000 additional security personnel to the Venezuelan border. This figure included 2,120 more soldiers. He claimed the reason behind such moves was to control problems created by Venezuelan migrants. Among the new restrictions was the suspension of a daily visitor card for Venezuelans. Similar border measures have also been introduced by Brazil, which has announced plans to double its border patrols on the Venezuelan frontier. The new measure comes at a time of increased tension between Venezuela's left-wing government and the right-wing governments in Colombia and Brazil. And that's just part of it. That's just the tip of the iceberg. And like I say, I'm telling you all of this because we're going to come to a conclusion before the hour is over. Folks, you're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin, live and direct from the SHR sumptuous and palatial studios in Sacramento, California. Please come right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplanestalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the Bloviating Zeppelin, sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny. And we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
SHAT.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday night, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
Yep. SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on SHRmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. Insidious. You know, we talked about this for, for the last 3 years. And finally coming to fruition.
You know I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, sackheads against tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
You are listening to the SHR Media Network. You're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin live and direct from the depths, the 82-degree depths of the SHR Media studio, 2 miles from Sacramento, California, the locus of evil on the entire left coast. I find it difficult to quantify to you how evil it is just 2 miles that away. Now, tonight we're doing an SHR special report, and it's about the powder keg just beneath the United States of America. I was telling you about Southern America and Central America, and we were most recently talking about Venezuela. The Venezuelan military is being affected as well because, as history indicates, when a dictator loses his military, he also loses his safety. This is from the Wall Street Journal. Pressure cooker: discontent rises in the Venezuelan military as the economy takes a nosedive. The coup plot by disgruntled Venezuelan military officers in March of this year was very audacious. Seize control of the capital's military bases, arrest President Nicolas Maduro, and install a provisional government to replace his authoritarian regime. To avoid detection for a year, conspiring officers issued phone calls, texts, and emails, and instead sent messages via couriers, said an army captain who helped plan the thwarted coup. They plotted during seemingly impromptu soccer matches. Before they could meet, though, Mr. Maduro's intelligence services discovered the plot, described by military analysts as the most serious to date against his government. Authorities quickly arrested 9 of the rebel officers, including the head of the largest armored battalion in the capital and Mr. Maduro's former interior minister. Discontent in the barracks is at an all-time high. Current and former military officers say shortages of food, expiring and evaporating salaries, and desertions have turned the armed forces into a cauldron of conspiracies against Mr. Maduro, these people say. One Air Force lieutenant who deserted in March after a decade in uniform said in a telephone interview from Argentina that the collapse of the currency had reduced, get this, had reduced his monthly paycheck to the equivalent of $10. Unable to afford a car or an apartment, he rode a bicycle to the base and moved in with his wife's parents. What kind of military forces its officers to live with their in-laws? So what's really going on in Venezuela? Then, oh, but wait, there is in fact more. Then there's Nicaragua. Nicaragua is in complete revolt these days. President Daniel Ortega's Social Security reforms aren't playing well with the electorate, which has created a general anti-government uprising. Recent protests left 27 people dead, shot, of course, by government forces. Who else? In the meantime, Ortega installed his wife. He installed his wife as vice president in 2017 because why wouldn't you? So what? Nepotism, electoral fraud, censorship, they all abound, at least for the time being. Daniel Ortega is now what he fought against in the 1980s. And finally, there's Mexico itself. Again, directly adjacent to the United States. What happens, not if, but when Mexico goes hard to port? The frontrunner, listen to this. If you weren't aware, the frontrunner in Mexico's July presidential election, so it's coming up next month, is a guy named AMLO. And in Mexico, they just call him AMLO, but it stands for Andre Manuel Lopez Obrador, AMLO. And he happens by the way, this is critical, he happens to be great friends with Jeremy Corbyn, the massive UK leftist leader of the Labour Party. So both AMLO and Corbyn support Maduro, love communist Cuba, and all things a fusion of communist and socialist. If AMLO is elected, as is forecasted, another potential Venezuela abuts the United States of America directly. Then there's this little tidbit. This came out just this past week from thedailycaller.com. It's a human right, he says. Mexican presidential candidate calls for a mass exodus to the United States of America. Mexican presidential candidate Andrés Manuel López Obrador AMLO called for mass immigration to the United States during a speech last Tuesday, by the way, declaring that it's a human right for all North Americans. And soon, very soon, after the victory of our movement, we will defend all the migrants in the American continent and all the migrants in the world, Obrador said, adding that immigrants must leave their towns and find a life in the United States. Then he declared it is a human right we will defend. And so if you think that Mexico, and he will be elected, guaranteed, mark my words. Now, if you think that any of those little caravans that came all the way up from South America or Central America, if you think Mexico has any intention of stopping any of those people, no, they'll be pushing them even harder. So, right, isn't that what you want here in the United States, U.S. politicians? Right? What's happening? Let me go back a little bit. A lot of you probably know this already, but this is Mexico itself now attempting to Cloward Piven strategy the entire United States of America with the leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots, what I call now the LDAM, leftists, Democrats, and American media maggots. And they're all in lockstep today. So the LDAM have no idea what this would truly mean for the United States. And politicians, U.S. politicians, I got to ask you, are you sure that you really want this? Are you sure? Because what you have in those countries that people are fleeing is what is coming up here to the United States of America. Here's an article from, of all places, CNBC.com. More than 100 politicians have been murdered in Mexico ahead of Sunday's election. More than 100 politicians in Mexico have been killed since September in the lead-up to the country's election this Sunday, and more than 13,000 Mexicans have been killed since January. In an 11-year war on drugs, Mexico has failed to control organized crime and criminal infiltration of local governments and law enforcement. Don't you need that up here? Sure you do. Politicians, you need more people murdered. Oh, wait, now, that also includes yourselves, too, as well. Some 20 or so percent of voters remain undecided, and security is expected to be a major factor in how they choose to vote. Guadalajara, Mexico, June 10th, 2018. According to official figures, more than 200,000 people have been murdered and over 30,000 have disappeared since the government launched a controversial military offensive against organized crime in late 2006. Violence hit a record peak in Mexico last year with over 30,000 murders, and it's not slowing down. More than 100 politicians alone have been killed in the lead-up to the country's election this coming Sunday. Public officials and activists in Mexico face deadly threats even in broad daylight. Fernando Puron, a congressional candidate in the border city of Piedras Negras, was taking a selfie with a supporter when a gunman shot him in the head from behind. He was the 112th political hopeful to be killed since September. The deaths reveal the depth of a crisis Mexico has failed to control: organized crime and criminal infiltration of local governments and law enforcement. And ahead of this weekend's presidential and congressional elections, no candidate has been able to offer a credible plan to fight it. So again, I got to ask all you U.S. politicians that are out there saying, come one, come all through Mexico, right here into the United States. Are you sure that you want these statistics in your United States? Are you sure you want more Steve Scalise situations on both sides of the aisle? Not just on the conservative side, hardly, because by keeping the border doors open, it's precisely what you're going to get.
Dream vacations turning into nightmares. The U.S. Department of State issuing an urgent travel advisory to Americans as violence continues at popular tourist destinations like Cancun and Acapulco.
Yeah, there were over 25,000 murders in Mexico last year, with violent crime like kidnapping, carjacking, and robbery also on the rise.
So how did these dream destinations become murder hotbeds? Joining us now is TravelPulse.com founder Mark Murphy. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So give us an update on what's going on in Cancun from your perspective.
So the State Department warning in regards to Playa del Carmen was the latest thing with the ferry. Yeah. Turns out that was a political attack based on a former governor. So it's very isolated. They've now walked that back. And there are certain areas, just like in New York City, or I have a home down in New Jersey. I don't go hang out in the middle of Camden at 3 o'clock in the morning. You don't go to certain areas that you know are hotbeds for either gangs or drugs. And there are areas outside of the tourist zones themselves that have that. Yeah. So that's what they want you to stay away from.
Okay, so we're talking about Cancun here, and obviously if you're a tourist, you're
that means most of Mexico.
Going into the resorts, and you think that you're still reasonably safe. But let's look at another place like Acapulco. When I read this article earlier this week, I read some things that I didn't know, which is just how popular it once was. It was a place where the Kennedys honeymooned. It's where the Clintons honeymooned.
It was the
Rat Pack hung out there. It had its heyday, and now today it's deteriorated to the point where even in the resorts you really can't go, and it's only really Mexicans that are going to Acapulco to vacation.
You don't really hear people going there anymore.
Right. Well, and you have to look at
Acapulco, by the way, used to be absolutely beautiful. Here's another article from from of all places Yahoo.com. More on Venezuela. Venezuela's hyperinflation at a new dizzying high. Venezuela's sky-high inflation soared. Are you sitting down for this? Soared to 24,571% in the past 12 months, lawmakers said Monday. Analysts blame what they call mismanagement of a state-led economy that includes the control over hard currency as well as low oil prices. Venezuela depends on crude oil for its earnings. And of course, by the way, if you didn't think so, you know this already. America, the U.S., is already at fault. We are at fault. We're responsible for this. Ask anyone in Central America. Ask anybody in Southern America. Ask anybody on the topic. The U.S. is always to blame. So this is why I wanted to talk to you tonight about the powder keg on our border. The bottom line is that literally every country to the south of the United States is either destabilized in the throes of an evil government, communist, socialist, subject to elitists ruling peasants, or in the process of being destabilized while killing any number of dissidents or people that the sitting government might even remotely perceive to be dissidents. That's not even talking about any of the corruption and the murders of police, federal and government officials, and politicians that occur. And it's during all these times concurrently, by the way, that leftists and altogether too many Republicans are either indifferent to or they're pushing very, very hard against border controls for the United States. Make no mistake, the LDAM, the leftists, Democrats, American media maggots, are asking, wait, let's be accurate. They're demanding that the same thing that it's occurring in Mexico and South America and Central America, that it be replaced and recreated and replicated right here in the United States of America. More corruption, more chaos, more bankrupt theories, more socialism that never works. You know what? I'm sorry. We already have enough of all of that, including corruption, right now here in the United States. So, with this, do you see any potential threats building? And then I have to ask this of you and also the D.C. politicians, Democrats, leftists, the American media maggots, and of course the Republicans as well. What happens when an entire continent wants to acquire refugee and or asylum status in the United States of America? And that's why I'm telling you that there is a powder keg on our southern border. Don't look just this far. Look this far down the way. Look this far down the way. Look even further. And try to do what BZ calls the logical extension. Because if you think that it's just a couple of Mexicans that are disaffected and they want to climb the walls and they want to come into America and they're bringing children and they're claiming asylum or refugee status, that's mostly people from Mexico. And at this point, relatively speaking, in terms of numbers, they might be high, but these are dribs and drabs. What happens when you have another country that decides that, say in the case of Venezuela, you know, Colombia is not being nice enough to us, and Brazil isn't being nice enough to us, so instead of moving, say, east or west, and shoot, we certainly don't need to be going any further south, what happens when they decide that, I know, I have an idea, we'll go north? And who's to say that that wouldn't happen? That's why we do, in fact, have a powder keg sitting to our very south, right underneath our butts. And I'm sorry for the geographical reference, and some Mexicans and South Americans and Central Americans may not like that, but that's okay. Canada sits on top of us as well, so get the hell over it. We're going to go. We got about another 7 more minutes. I came across this today. Actually, Alan Thomas came across this today and sent this to me in a Facebook message. And I said, I listened to it. And I thought, okay. And it's perfect to play right now. He said he listened to this and he laughed like crazy. And then I listened to it and I laughed like crazy. And I thought, you know, overall, this is really very, very clever. And this is a cut from a group called the Cigar Rappers. And they're not rappers, R-A-P-P-E-R-S. They're the Cigar Rappers with a W. And the song is called the Illegal Immigrant Song, Build the Wall. It's great.
I will build a great, great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall. Build the wall! Build the wall! I come from a land that's down below to the USA from Mexico. Ignoring all your laws will drive without insurance on welfare rewards. I am relying, America, I am coming. Senoritas, a pregnant lady. Next thing you know, she's got an anchor baby. Build the wall. Build the wall. I come to your home with no green card, 'cause the border patrol needs a national guard. With traitors like Moonbeam, we'll stay here lying low. We come in droves to your Home Depot. Good luck making us pay so. Wrong. Apartments teeming with dozens more than fire code allows on an entire floor. The wall just got 10 feet taller. Build the wall. Build the wall. I come from a land of weed and blow, where the drug cartels all run the show. Progressives, we're your cause. We'll fly our flag in your land. Vote for liberals who will hide me in sanctuary cities.
have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
No taxes from our jobs. The money we're accruing. Instead of ATMs, we send it home with Western Union.
I would build a great wall, and nobody builds walls better than me, believe me.
That was written and performed by the Cigar Rappers. You can find them at cigarrappers.com. And it was recorded in video production and editing was by the Cigar Rappers. So you got to see them. That was also taken from the Immigrant song from Page and Plant from Led Zeppelin, as if you didn't know already. We got about 5 more minutes before the top of the hour break. And at the top of the hour break, after we come back, we'll be talking to the East Coast political goddess herself, KARI BAXTER Donovan. She's got a ton of stuff to tell us. In CNN politics, now a lot of states had their own little elections. New York was one of them. And if you want to find some kind of a trail of breadcrumbs that is going to indicate just where the Democrats are going and may be successful in going. Well, here's a song, Jesus. Here's a story that I just found from CNN Politics, and this tells you a ton of what you need to know. The headline is this from CNN Politics. A 28-year-old Democratic socialist just ousted a powerful 10-term congressman in the state of New York. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a 28-year-old Latina running her first campaign, ousted 10-term incumbent Representative Joe Crowley in New York's 14th Congressional District on Tuesday, CNN projects, in the most shocking upset of a rollicking political season. So basically, it's one Democrat/socialist now defeating another Democrat. And then the winner, of course, the winner appears to be her, will be facing off somebody else. An activist and member of the Democratic Socialists of America, Ocasio-Cortez won over voters in the majority district with a ruthlessly efficient grassroots bid, even as Crowley, the fourth-ranking Democrat in the House, outraised her by a 10-1 margin. This was the first time in 14 years a member of his own party has attempted to unseat Crowley, who chairs the Queens County Democrats. His defeat marks a potential sea change in the broader sphere of liberal politics, a result with implications for Democrats nationwide that would recall, as optimistic progressives routinely noted during the campaign, former GOP Majority Leader Eric Cantor's loss to the insurgent Tea-backed Dave Bratt in June of 2014. And this is a quote. "This is not an end. This is the beginning. This is the beginning because the message that we sent the world tonight is that it's not okay to put donors before your community," Ocasio-Cortez told roaring supporters on Tuesday night. She cast her victory as the green shoots of triumph over the deep midnight and darkness of the political movement. That's a cautionary tale. And that's happening in the state of New York. And if you think that that's going to be stopping all across the fruited plain, it won't. Now, eventually it's going to stop because of cash. However, we've seen this already occur in California. We've seen it occur by the way of Bernie Sanders. People are saying that, you know what, I think Bernie is going to be the big candidate for 2020. But let's back up. I got about another minute before the break. Well, let's back up a little bit. Because why was it that Bernie wasn't absent all the incredible political cheating by Hillary Clinton's campaign and the DNC, which essentially were one and the same? But what was said sub rosa to a lot of the Democrats that they didn't want Bernie in there? Bernie would have done this. He would have lit a match and thrown a bunch of Torpex into the situation where money talks and bullshit walks. And what I mean by that is he would have blown up all the political contributors on the Democrat side for the quid pro quo. And what gets you what you want? Money. Money. And Bernie threatened the standard, the money standard. And the big question now at this point is, how many other Democrats like this young little chickadee that just got elected, how many of them are willing to blow it all up and discover that they're fighting completely unarmed? How many? And how long will this last?
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny. And we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
SHAT.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday night, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
Yep. SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on SHRmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. Insidious. You know, we talked about this for, a good, for the last 3 years. And finally coming to fruition.
You know I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, sackheads against tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are in fact listening to the SHR Media Network. It's Tuesday night, so it's got to be the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, broadcasting from the sumptuous and palatial, just look at it, SHR Media Studios in Sacramento, which is the locus of evil on the entire left coast. And now it's time for the second hour, and with that, I'd like to introduce the act you've known for all these years, the one you, I, we, they all love, the East Coast political goddess. It's KARI Baxter Donovan. Are you there, KARI Baxter Donovan? KARI Baxter Donovan. Are you there? KARI. Okay, KARI. We're going to try this again. Are you there? Why don't we hear you? KARI, do me a favor and hang up and call back, if you will, and we'll see. I put you on, and I've got the Bluetooth working, etc., so it all ought to be just fine. So call right back, and I bet we get you. Yeah. White Mamba says connection issues. Oh, no. Well, what I think happened is that she called before the end of the break. See, here we go. Now we're hearing things. Okay. KARI Baxter Donovan, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. It's like the guy. It's like, can you hear me now? What I think happened is that when you call early, somehow that affects the volume, and I knew we'd get through. All I had to do is just ask you to call back, so I'm not worried. I'm not worried if you're not worried, and you're not worried because you're never worried because you're the East Coast political goddess, KARI Baxter Donovan.
Of course I am, right. Yes,
Crikey.
thank you so much.
Crikey, it's time for KARI. Well, everybody here is waiting with bated breath, either mackerel or herring, I'm not sure which, to hear you, because you have been places and done things. So let's start out with this, if we can. Now, I know there are some topics and some areas that you want to go to, and we will get to them. But first, I want you to let people to know where it is that you've been recently, because I saw you kicked out photos of you. Evil KARI, evil KARI, somewhere in a Trump building, somewhere in a Trump hotel. My God, woman, what were you doing there?
Oh, I was doing all sorts of things, but I can only tell you about some of them.
Okay.
So you know, it's a family show. So anyway,
No, it's not a family show. It's a late night show, and you can say anything you damn well please.
Well, darn it, I was just trying to keep my privacy. But no, it was so much fun. So I went with I was the photographer for the Virginia Women for Trump group, and they had what they were calling Tea for Two. It's basically they wanted to have a little birthday party for President Trump. And Alice Butler is the head of that group, and she's always doing something. She's just a fabulous, very energetic woman. And so let's see. So we had this big event. There was a cocktail party the night before, and just all kinds of people. And again, it was so interesting because there were people coming in from all over the country just to like be around other Trump supporters. And so, and the hotel is just, you know, reeking of Trump everywhere you look. It's so fantastic if you like him, right? And the lobby is just always constantly busy with people doing deals and hanging out with each other. And so Friday night was a little cocktail party with lots of Trump supporters. That was a lot of fun. And then Saturday was the event. I'm sorry, Saturday was a cocktail party. Sunday was the event, and it was a fashion show. And so it was a little bit of everything, but it was the Make America Great Again dress designer. And he did a full fashion show, and then the grand finale was his Make America Great dresses. And so those are all the photos that you saw that I put up on Facebook. And that was just a lot of fun. And let's see, Corey Stewart was there.
Can I make an interjection?
Mm-hmm.
Can I make an interjection? If
of
folks,
course, it's your show.
Well, no, but you're going one very important place. But I want to tell something about you in terms of your capabilities, and that's this, folks. If you haven't been to KARI Baxter Donovan's Facebook page, you really should, because when she says that she's a photographer, well, you can clearly see by the photos that she displays there that she is really an excellent photographer. And I'm saying this not to blow up your skirts or anything like that, because I've been taking photographs for years and years. I've got a ton of cameras, a ton of Nikons, an old Niker mat, etc., blah, blah, blah. So I know a good photograph when I see one, and I wanted to make sure that I tell you that I value the quality of your photographs. You have a very good eye. I think I've said this to you before, but I want to continue to tell you that that the photographs that you display on your page are really very, very fine. So whatever it is that you may think of KARI, she's a great journalist, a citizen journalist, etc., writes good stories, etc. You also need to appreciate the quality of her photography. Now that I've said that, okay, please continue on.
Thank you so much.
I'm just telling the truth. I'm just telling the truth.
Well, and so I just am so pleased when I get to. Photography is really my thing. So that's so pleasing to me, and I love to take the photos. And it was a great show. It was a great program. And Corey Stewart was there. And here's what I thought was interesting, and you're going to love it because you love those media maggots, as you call them. We knew that there was somebody had infiltrated the area. Somebody from a leftist media had been in the area, but we weren't sure who it was. And about an hour after the event was over, there was an article up on the New York Times about the event, and of course they were mocking the event.
Right.
They were mocking the fashion show. They were mocking everything, and they even had a photograph of Corey Stewart. And I they had to go out of their way to make the photo appear as if it was a demon. If you look at this.
Jesus.
It's just so I put up my own photos that I had taken, interestingly enough, of the same woman in a hat, and there were 852 women there, and the New York Times and I picked the same woman's photograph, and so I thought that was interesting because it just shows what a bunch of jerks they are. They can't even just leave women alone. Women in hats having a fashion show, they have to break in and be jerks and try to smear it. So that was an interesting thing because I literally had the same photographs, but mine looked beautiful and hers looked demonic. So, and I happened to know who the photographer was because she got in the way of my photo, and I just, I had to just
purposely
explain to her. I'd explain to her, keep rolling, honey, out of my way. You just can't stand there. And she says, well, I was hired to take photos for this event. I said, no, you weren't, because I was. So get out of my way. Don't be in line of my photograph. And she said something like, oh, you're just going to have to deal with it. I said, you're going to have to just keep walking. So we got into a little thing. But I tried to explain to her, I'm not really very nice if you're going to get in the way of my photograph. So the photography is always fun for me.
Don't get in the way of the KBD is what you meant.
That's what I meant. That's right.
And the ECPG. Hey, Dave in chat asks this. He says, ask this question. Ask KARI. Ask KARI about the bot
Love
thing.
Dave. Oh, okay, Dave. Okay, so, I like to troll a little bit on Twitter, when I'm bored. So I sent Maxine Waters a tweet, and I said,
No.
Dear Maxine Waters, I did. Dear Maxine Waters, could you please explain to me, and I don't remember the exact dates yet, but I want to say it was 2010. Could you please explain to me why you were removed from the ethics committee in 2010 and why you were, what ethics violations you were facing, something like that, right? And so the next day, or 4 a.m., because remember they always used to mock President Trump for what time he was tweeting? Well, she tweeted back to me at 4 a.m. in the morning and called me a Russian bot.
Now, wait.
She
Was
said
it
a bot.
was
Bot.
it
I'm
4
sorry, not Russian
a.m.
bot.
Was it 4 a.m. your time or 4 a.m. her time?
Oh, that's a very good point. So if it was 4 a.m. my time, then it was 1 a.m.
It's 1 a.m. her time, and then she really is a dweeb for tweeting to you at 1 a.m.
What kind of dweeb tweets at 1 a.m. anyway? I mean, and she calls me, she just said something like, "You're a bot." And I had to respond to her, and I said, "Madam, I am a 7th generation American. I am not a Russian bot. In fact, I'll call your office later this afternoon, and I will let you verify my humanity." So we're going back and forth on Twitter. So I call her office, and I talk to her office staff, and I said, "I'm calling because this is a media inquiry. So I want to know when can I talk to her so that you can verify my humanity to her and let her know that I'm not a bot." And so, of course, she never answered. But, Dave, that's the story. So, I just had to troll her a little bit. But I did for for about a week, I had Maxine Waters, Waters Watch, day 1. Will she respond? Day 2, of course, she never responded.
I love stuff like that.
She did say that I was a bot, and that really annoyed me.
Yeah, I'm a bot who happens to be a human and who happens to be an American taxpayer and happens to be someone that's from the East Coast and someone that doesn't hate you, although I'm bordering on it, but I hate mostly your policies. Comma, fill in the blank.
Right. Well, and they've lost their sense of humor because, I found a way to make it funny. Like, how about if I call your office so that you can verify my humanity? Well, she didn't think that was very funny. So,
no.
But no. So there's that, and the thing at the Trump Tower, that was so much fun. And I was just so I wanted to tell you about this $532 liquor bill. So
yes,
at the Trump
that
Tower,
was it. That's
okay,
what
at the
that
Trump
was the
Tower,
one.
Everyone's just friends there. So I wouldn't normally go to the bar by myself. But everyone was kind of, going off to restaurants or doing other things, and I sort of just wanted to hang for a couple of minutes and then go back and go to sleep because I was tired. And I went down to the bar, and "Here, do you want a drink?" And I said, "Okay." Well, I'm not going to turn a drink down. And you should see the whiskey. Oh my gosh, I have photos of the bar and the champagne and the liquor that's all over, and everyone is just liquored up in that place. By 11
There's a
o'clock
shocker.
They're just because they keep pouring drinks, and it just, the people are, chatting, and it's very social. Everyone's very happy. So this very lovely couple offered to buy me a drink, and I said, "Okay, sure, fine, whatever." And I had a Johnny Walker Black. That was nice. It was awesome. And so the bill comes, and the woman can't see it. They've been there for many hours, the two of them, she and her husband, and they were so fun. They were so awesome, nice. But I felt terrible because she didn't have her glasses, so she couldn't read the bill. And I said, "It's $532. And she said, "What? $532. So she's trying to figure out, we're trying to figure out what the tip would be before her husband can hear, or her boyfriend.
Jesus.
Who's like, what is it? We're trying to figure out how much the tip would be. So I made a very good friend, and she follows me on Facebook now, and she's quite lovely. And she was so fun. I was trying to convince her, "Ditch him, go take him back up to the room and come back down so we can hang out." But so I made a lifelong friend over a very large bar bill.
Okay, so what I got to go there because you opened the door. What was the tip that she left? And it wasn't Seabiscuit in the 9th or Wash Behind Your Ears.
Well, okay, so I was trying to do the math. And, okay, so that would be 10%, 15%. And,
Well, it'd
so
be,
she
if
left-
you wanted to make it 20%, you'd make it basically $100.
Right, so I think she left $45.
Oh. She better not expect any favors from that bartendress anymore.
I think if I remember correctly, because we kept changing it, and then he would say, "Come on, let's go." and it's just too funny. And that's the kind of fun that you can have when you're going to go and hang out at the Trump International Hotel lobby.
So tell me, what was your overall impression of the Trump Hotel itself? Was it I would assume that it's a pretty nice, well-run place.
Well, you know what? I think that I don't think that the service reflects on President Trump, so I'm going to let you know. It's kind of typical. It was very good in some places and not so good in other places. It was typical Washington, government employees in some areas.
Okay, so
which is disappointing because the hotel is beautiful. It's very European. You can tell that there are Trump touches everywhere, but he can't control everything.
Right.
And in some places it was the people that were checking in the rooms had their card swiped 7 times.
What?
7 times, for example.
Oh my God.
And the receptionist woman didn't speak English very well, so we were really trying to communicate to her that stop swiping the card, So, yeah, that was kind of like shocking. But then I had called up. So at nighttime they leave the little chocolate, on your pillow.
Okay.
And it had a cute little box with Trump on it, and my daughter loves Trump, and so I wanted to take it to her.
Okay.
And I guess I forgot to pick it up and put it in my suitcase, but I assumed, I didn't eat it. I'll leave it here on the dresser, and it will be there. Well, it was gone. They took it and they threw it away. First of all, I think that's a bad service.
The hotel staff steals your pillow chocolate.
They did. They took it. So
That's
I called
low.
down, and I said, hey, wait a minute. You guys didn't come for, and then I assumed, well, they'll come again. They'll come in again, for the second night, they'll do the turn down service for the second night, and I'll grab that chocolate and put it in my purse and take it to my daughter. Well, so they didn't come to do it. So I called and I said, hey, listen, I wanted that little chocolate to take to my daughter because she really loves Trump and she's going to think that's cute. And I also have another reason why I do that, which I think you'll probably think is funny. But you know what? They sent someone up in like 5 minutes with a tower of chocolate, bottles of Evian water, bags of slippers. And I was like, okay, fine. No, I didn't need any more stuff. Thank you very much. So that was a lovely service. So it was kind of, weird.
No.
It was,
Proving once again, okay, squeaky wheel grease. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
So you had overall a good time. Now, there was another, I think there was another story that you said you wanted to talk about, and offhand, I don't recall what it was. You had, let's see, you had whiskey.
Always whiskey, right?
Yeah.
Whiskey, chocolate. Oh, yeah, politics. Right, whatever. Whatever.
One of your most recent stories, I think, that you did was something about the red hen. And the owner of the red hen. For the people who might not be aware of what that is, could you tell folks a little bit about your story?
Sure. So the Resistance red hen owner disgraced and learns that we are a republic. That one?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So the Red Hen is a restaurant. It's a small little tiny restaurant in Lexington, Virginia.
Okay.
And they had a special guest. I guess it was Friday night. It was Friday or Saturday because I was in D.C. at the time. It was Saturday. And they had a special guest on that day, which was Press Secretary Sarah Sanders, had stopped in with her children, her husband, and a group of people. I don't know who was in that group, but I know that there was a small group of people that she was with. And she stopped into the restaurant, and she was actually eating. They were having hors d'oeuvres, and I think a couple of people had gotten their meals. And the staff had called the owner of the restaurant and had told her that Sarah Sanders was there and that they wanted to ask her to leave. So the owner comes in, and she takes Sarah aside onto a porch in the back, and she says to her something about, hey, we want you to leave because we have standards here of honesty and compassion, and so we need you to leave. And so apparently Sarah goes in and gathers up her kids and her whatever entourage that she's traveling with, and they leave, and they go to another restaurant. So the story came out yesterday that the owner of the restaurant actually followed the crowd to the next restaurant, harassing them. So we didn't know about that until yesterday, but immediately, pretty immediately, Sarah goes on Twitter and she basically tweets out, I was asked to leave this restaurant, and I just did, because it says more about the restaurant owner than it does about me, and she sort of left it at that. Well, of course, people found out about it, and that whole story blew up, right? So then we find out, if you do a little bit of research, the restaurant owner is actually a cousin of Meryl Streep.
Really?
Yes, and that was, and in my article, it is a congressman in the area who posted that. So that's been verified. So the woman her name is Wilkinson, Sarah Wilkinson, who is the owner, she decided to step down from her position with like the community business board. And so that's what my article starts out with, that she steps down from her position on this little business board. And I had posted the following morning after the story came out, I said, well, I give her 6 months before she's out of business, because she's in the county where Lexington is okay. Rockbridge County, and they voted for Trump 62.4%.
Now, see, I would have thought that a community like that, especially a small community, that they would tend to lean left, but apparently that's not true.
Surprise. Virginia's very red. So I looked that up, and I posted that in my article, that Rockbridge County went 62.4% Trump. So I was thinking, how long until the restaurant is going to be closed? So this is sort of an indication for her stepping down from this board, that, the town is not happy with her. And apparently there have been some things on Facebook, some comments. Then I found an article where Trump supporters she's closed now. I guess there's so much commotion she can't even open until July 5th.
Oh,
but they went on
darn.
Yelp. They went on Yelp. They messed around with her digital menu. And so, she has gotten a lot of pushback. And Mason Weaver posted today on Facebook, he said, I hope you're paying all of those employees as you're closed down. So people are going to be just looking for a reason to give her a hard time. But my article was mostly about this sign that was left on the door of the Red Hen. And it says, democracy requires principled government. Thank you, Red Hen, with a bouquet of flowers. So that's sort of the gist of my article, is that the Resistance Red Hen owner, who's now disgraced, learns that we're not really a democracy after all. We're a republic. We're a representative republic. They have this idea that if they say that we're a democracy, then we are, because surely whatever they say, they can just like wish things into existence, and mob rule, which is exactly what they're selling us the last few days, is going after Republicans. Oh, I'll just form up a mob, and then we'll just demand and we'll wish things into existence, and won't we all be happy? Well, no, we're a representative republic. We're not going to change that. So that's my article.
It's funny you should mention that, because I'm looking at your article right now, and in it is a tweet from somebody called Rhonda Hurley, and it says, Red Hen restaurant owner who kicked Sarah Sanders out is Meryl Streep's cousin, a New York transplant. And underneath that tweet is a photo of what I can only think is the owner of the Red Hen, and right next to her is a photo of Meryl Streep. But I find this very illustrative, is that all the members, there she is, and there's what appears to be her son, judgmental me calling that guy that looks like a son. Who knows what gender he chose that day?
Did you assume his gender?
Yeah, I made a horrible mistake. And then apparently the dad next to him. And I find it very revelatory that all three of them are wearing pink pussy hats.
Right. Exactly.
What a family of morons.
You probably don't really want to get me started on, all this screaming and yelling about abusing children. Oh, my goodness, we're going to light her hair on fire. Well, she kicks Sarah Sanders out, who was there with her children, and then she emasculates her own child by making him wear a pussy hat.
Yeah. Jesus.
That's what I was going to write in my article, but I was trying to keep it, family friendly.
Things we could have done for that in my day. So I'll tell you what.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I'm so harsh and so judgmental. When we come back, we're going to take a break. It's the bottom of the hour. When we come back, I'd like to talk to KARI Baxter Donovan, with whom we've been conversing for the past half hour. I'd like to get her input on the Supreme Court's ruling today on the travel ban, about a poll that tells us about what people think about Trump's wall, and about another SCOTUS ruling that really didn't get covered very much with regard to California pregnancy centers. And then another SCOTUS ruling, I think this was about 2 or 3 days ago, with regard to warrants for cell phone data. Anyway, those are some of the topics we'll be talking about when we come back. You are, in fact, listening to KARI Baxter Donovan right here on the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Go nowhere.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capitol, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin, sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny. And we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
SHAT.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday nights, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
Yep. SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. You know, we talked about this for for the last 3 years, and finally coming to fruition.
You know, I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, sackheads against tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Wow. 2 hours almost done. Boom, quick like a bunny. We're in the final 25. The last 25 minutes of the show. A 2-hour show. Almost gone. Quite zippy, as a matter of fact. And we've been talking since midnight on the East Coast. And, wow. I have to say to KARI Baxter Donovan again, thank you ever so kindly for being here this late. You are on the East Coast, and it's it's 35 minutes after midnight where you are right now. So thanks for sticking in there. I really appreciate it.
I love it. I appreciate being on. So thank you.
Okay, got to ask you a question. A lot of people in chat were asking this question. Are you a dog person? And the entire people were asking this. Okay, who's a dog person and who's a cat person? Are you a cat person or a dog person?
I am a dog person. I don't like cats.
Okay. All right.
I don't like cats.
Do you have, allergies to them?
I do have allergies, but I can be around some short-haired cats, but cats are just catty, and they're unpredictable to me, and I don't really get cats.
I quantify dogs as cheerleaders for their owners, and
yeah, exactly.
And
that's what I need.
And cats, maybe you can. I'd sum it up this way: cats don't have owners; they have staff.
Right.
I'm sure you've heard that before.
Yes.
That's
yes. That's exactly how I feel. Yeah, I don't like to be bossed around by a little furball.
Yeah, no kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's taken over a year for us to get to this particular point, but in a 5-4 decision today, the U.S. Supreme Court came out, and all the people on the left are saying, well, it was just a 5-4 decision, and it's just a squeaker. Well, that's what any 5-4 decision is, you bucket of morons. But in any event, the Supreme Court today came out and said that they're okay with Trump's, I think it was his third iteration of the travel ban, and they rejected essentially the idea that it had anything to do with Muslim bias at all. Now, it was sharply divided. But as I think the undergrad professor, Dr. Michael Jones, said, and a lot of other people said, eventually this got bounced around from, I think, the 4th to the 9th and a bunch of other district circuit courts where it occurred. But they said eventually when it gets to SCOTUS, cooler heads are going to prevail. And, 5-4, it's still a winning decision. It's like the ancient old trope is, what do you call a man who graduates with a 70% score on his physician's exam? Doctor. You call him doctor,
right,
okay?
You call him doctor.
So
exactly.
It's the same thing with SCOTUS.
Did we win 100% of the conservatives? I think so, yeah. We did. We won 100% of the conservatives. There we go.
It was basically the conservative majority took his side. Supporting, basically it was just a referendum on presidential powers. And people before had done this. Jimmy Carter had done the exact same thing.
Right, and beside that, we don't know that he probably has a reason for it, which would be classified. So that's what I keep saying. You don't know that it has nothing to do with Muslims. It has to do with who's threatening us.
It has.
And they probably have some classified information on who's trying to attack us. So,
well, the problem is In this regard, if we don't learn one thing about what's happening in Europe right now, we should learn that allowing 1 million to 2 million refugees who really don't have much of any interest in assimilating in any of those countries, when you let them flood a general area, there will not be good results. Whether they're Muslim or not, they could be,
and here's what
all
I'd say.
Buddhists, but they're not going to assimilate into your particular country.
And here's what I say to them. I don't have to pretend any longer that people who don't know the difference between a democracy and a republic have a valid opinion on anything. Nothing. You have a valid opinion on nothing if you don't know the difference between a democracy and a republic. Of course you want to flood the country with third world, unappeased, angry, poor people because you want mob rule. That's what you're holding. Oh, we're a democracy, and, it's what's good for the democracy. So I don't have to pretend anymore that they have valid opinions, including their Supreme Court justices. So we want 100% of the conservatives. Therefore, I'm happy, and I think that that's awesome.
This goes to show also with regard to, say, the Electoral College. So you don't just get to make a clean sweep in a popular vote. You must also win the Electoral College, and that goes to show, however, why Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Hillary Clinton, the various LDAM elements all throughout the various United States, they all want to do away with the Electoral College because as far as they're concerned, by sheer dint of will and vote, they should be able to confiscate anything from you. They should be able to tell you what you can wear, what you can say, how you can think, etc., all on down the line to what you can eat, what you stand for, what you state.
And if they can't control Americans, they'll just say, well, then we'll just let everybody in the country, everyone in the world who wants to come here, and those people don't know what liberty is or freedom. Their families haven't fought for generations to preserve anything. So what would they care if they're getting free stuff from the government? So it's interesting to me that we're now to the point where the Democrats literally have to advocate for bringing in third world nations because Americans have completely rejected them.
I went on the first hour rant with an SHR special report, and that was the powder keg beneath the United States. And and apparently politicians in D.C. do think that it's a good idea to bring in people that are, again, not particularly interested in assimilating, and though they are interested in bringing all of the things that they want to flee from with them into the United States, which can do nothing, just like Europe, but change the entire texture and pattern of the United States, which I think is the goal. Well, let me back up just a bit further. And I'm going to make a statement, and I'd like your thought or opinion on it. You have to back up and take a larger picture, and that's this. What the LDAM are discovering is that it's no longer sufficient that they try to continuously acquire the black vote, because the black vote is starting to explode, or I should say it's starting to implode on them. Witness Kanye West, for example. And this may be insulting to some, but quite frankly, I don't give a shit. Blacks are starting to think for themselves. They're stepping away from the Democrat plantation. Their brains are starting to realize, have we been simply utilized as a block, a voting block, a tool by Democrats for all these years, where they've proffered nothing but mealy-mouthed pablum to us, but have yet done nothing? Why is it then, under the aegis of Donald John Trump, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, that we have the least unemployment in the Hispanic sector, the least amount of unemployment for black Americans, and now we're discovering that, or the Democrats, the LDAM, are discovering that what once was a solid voting bloc is beginning to disintegrate in front of their very eyes now. So I submit to you and to everyone that the reason that this push is on now for illegals is because you're watching a process, a constructive process, right in front of your very eyes, in which the Democrats are attempting to assemble a new monolithic voting bloc to keep them elected in perpetuity, to keep them in power and money and control in perpetuity, because black Americans are disappointing the shit out of the LDAM.
They're
They're searching
not
around.
Be very successful.
No,
they're not going to be very successful at it. But they don't read the press releases, and that's what I say. I think every show. So today I wrote a story on a press release, which was that the Department of Justice won a case against a landscaping company for discrimination against American voters.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sorry, American. I got American voters on my mind. American workers. What happens to all of those people when they get here and we've cut entitlement spending because Americans can get jobs, and then they can't get jobs unless there's, a reason for them to get a job, because Americans first. So if they're here and they can't get any entitlement spending, any entitlement benefits, and they can't get a job, why would they stay here? I think they're going to start self-deporting. That's part of the plan. So what are Democrats going to do then?
Here's another very important and, in my opinion, very salient aspect of the whole thing about importing people that are less than the very best. Oh, BZ, how judgmental for saying that. Well, it's true. Okay, yes, these are very determined people. I'll give them an A for effort in terms of determination in leaving whatever land they came from and trying to come into the United States here. Okay, great. A for effort. On the other hand, these are not rocket scientists and brain surgeons. And as you can see, as I went into another restaurant the other day, I went into a movie theater. Here's the other thing. I went into a movie theater, a brand new movie theater that just got remodeled. And you buy your popcorn. They don't butter it for you. You butter it yourself. And they're not going to fill your drink for you. They just hand you a cup. And then you go to 4 or 5 other machines and you fill your drinks. So the jobs that previously were occupied by unskilled labor are being replaced by robots, to include the cultivating fields of agriculture all across the United States. This is the way of the future. This is what's going to occur. I don't see these people coming in and, we need more maids. Really? We need more yard maintenance workers. Really? We need more people that can fill in the blank. The future is not that. The future is technology. We'll always need a certain percentile of people to do various menial jobs. But nature abhors a vacuum. And eventually, sooner or later, those vacuums always get filled. So any overall thoughts about the SCOTUS ruling today with regard to the Trump travel ban itself?
I think that we should praise God that we have Neil Gorsuch, because finally they can actually start enforcing our constitutional civil liberties. That's what I think. Up until today, or up until actually he got on the Supreme Court, it was always like just getting a stab in the gut at their rulings. So, I mean, obviously, President Trump has the authority to do what he did. And
Yes.
it shows like Hawaii, that judge there, it shows the activist judges for who they are and what they were trying to do and who needs to go next. There's all of those judges. So, I mean, it happened I think that it happened, and we could probably, spin it in a good way for us, is that we could see who was causing a problem. But he always had the constitutional authority to have the ban. It's not really a ban. It's a pause in immigration, right? It's not even really a ban.
Right.
And it's not based on Muslims.
But I would proffer this. It's temporary, but it should be permanent in cases where you have areas around the world that are upside down. Because the logic of it is this. Can anyone tell me factually how it is that the United States can access any sort of a, I don't know, say Syrian database and determine that Muhammad v. Muhammad doesn't have any histories of being a pedophile or histories of being a racist or any counts of homicide against him.
Right, that's probably where we're actually headed. But we just don't want to scare anybody now.
How do you vet these people from war-torn areas? And the answer is you can't. So in terms of a Muslim ban, I call bullshit, rampant bullshit. The biggest area where there are Muslims today isn't the Middle East. It wasn't even named. A few paltry countries, 5 paltry countries were named who happen to be Muslim, but there are so many other countries around the area that were not named, like, just see, for one, Turkey, that wasn't named. In which country does the largest percentile, and by number, the amount of Muslims exist on the planet? And the answer is easy. Indonesia. Do we have a travel ban or a stay on Indonesia? No, we don't, because we share information with Indonesia. They're not a backwards culture where we can't determine if someone from Indonesia, what kind of a person are they, what kind of a background do they have?
Well, and this whole thing also, it illustrates how unserious the left is about their security and their family's security. They're not serious people.
No.
And I don't think we should even justify anything that they say. We should just say to them, "That's nice, honey," and pat them on the head. You're either retarded or you haven't lived long enough to understand. I don't have to sit here and justify anything that you say as being authentic, real. It's not based on the truth. You have no idea. For them to have gone through for the last 6 months over this quote-unquote ban, which isn't even a ban and isn't Muslim, they just make stuff up. And the reason why, and this is what I've been starting to really post on my social media, and it's freaking people out, the reason why we're going through this is because they're embarrassed that they lost. Their egos are so massive, they cannot rectify, they can't do any self-evaluation and say, my way isn't the best way. This is all because they're embarrassed that they lost. And they're just so mentally ill, they're just making up, it's a Muslim ban. Nobody actually really thinks it's a Muslim ban. It just gives them something to scream them, the infantile left, which includes some Republicans. It just gives them something to scream about and divert energy so that they don't ever have to look at themselves and say, I'm a freaking idiot. All of my ideas are wrong. I have no sense of economics. I don't even know how to do math. I'm dumb. I shouldn't even talk about politics. Maybe I shouldn't even vote at all. That's what they really don't want to admit it to themselves. So nobody really thinks it's a Muslim ban.
I said this since November 9th of 2016. And that was this. If there are 2 things to be pulled out of the last presidential election, one of the most critical is leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots, the LDAM, have no capability whatsoever for introspection or self-examination. All they have the capability of doing is proffering denial, continued denial. And from that day, from November 9th, in keeping with that, they had to craft a narrative, which was started prior to Donald John Trump's being president-elect, which is now being revealed as a true soft coup against the United States of America.
Right.
More and more, we are determining that the fix was so in, which is why they're even more, they're full of frothing hatred because we fixed this. We fixed everything. We cheated as much as we possibly could, and that fucker Donald John Trump still won? How is this possible in a sane world?
So the people love Donald Trump so much, and I figured that out. I really, really figured that out when I was working at the state fair with the GOP, and we were selling Donald Trump bumper stickers and buttons and stuff like that, at a state fair. And it was, I think, probably 2 weeks before the election, and people were like literally just take my money. They were throwing money at us, and they just wanted a pin. They just wanted to go and say, I am a proud Trump supporter. I'm voting for Trump. And that line went, people just came in, I'm not kidding, by the hundreds for hours, for days on end. It was a constant stream of people. We couldn't even get ourselves turned around. The place was just like always, like that Woolworths sale on hosiery where women are running in. I mean, that's the scene. So the people love Donald Trump, and the left, including some Republicans, they can't stand. They
like George
can't
Will.
stand that they lost, that they're not on the side of the victor. They don't care anything about his politics. They don't. There's nothing that they dislike about his tweets. That's a bunch of baloney. They just make stuff up because they don't want to say, I'm a loser. Right?
I'd like to go back to the SCOTUS travel ban for just a moment, because I was reading an AP, an Associated Press article, which said that Sotomayor, Justice Sonia Sotomayor, said that based on the evidence in the case, and I think the quote was, a reasonable observer would conclude that the proclamation was motivated by anti-Muslim animus. So I said, stop. Okay, let's do something really unusual. Let's go back, and I managed to go back and take a peek at her opinion. And I noticed one very important and, to me, incredibly salient and glaring, like a phosphorescence it had to it. A common thread through her opinion. And her opinion was packed with these 3 words. I think. I believe.
Right.
I feel.
Right.
And as opposed to looking through a number of the other opinions, these were predicated but upon emotives, upon emotions and feelings. And that's what you have for the Supreme Court of the United States today.
So
I think that says more about her than
it
anybody
says more
else.
About her. She needs to go and spend a little bit of time with my old past editor, the one who had the Breitbart experience, because he would say to me, Kari, you can't write that because you're not an expert. I'd say, yeah, but I know, but I know this thing because I studied it for a really long time. And he said, well, you're not an expert. Are you in a think tank? Did you do this? No, you're not the expert. And he a couple of times got me so mad because I would say, but I am the expert because I'm the one who's read about it for so long. And he would always bring me back to, you're not the expert. I want you to talk. You're not the story. Someone else is the story. And it hurt, but that's what we do on our side. We can go and evaluate, okay, you know what? I'm not supposed to be the story. I'm supposed to be writing the story about somebody else. And so she has obviously never had to go through that, where she's had to get her ego bashed in a little bit and be told, it doesn't really matter what you feel. Even though you're a Supreme Court justice, where are the facts, right? They're not facts. She's not a fact finder. We know that. I dare say she probably is slightly above average IQ.
And with that, we're going to have to say adieu. But before we go, Kari Baxter Donovan, the East Coast political goddess, I want you to tell people where can you be found on social media and where can you be read these days?
Well, I'm so excited to tell you that PopulousWire.com is taking off. We're exploding. And we had more engagement than CNN. So come check out our Facebook page, Populous Wire, on Facebook. Yeah, we're going to take them over, too. You're going to love it. But you can't call us media maggots, okay? And on Facebook, Kari Baxter Donovan, and Twitter at Happit, HAPPIT, 1776. And I hope that there's something enjoyable in my articles for everyone to read.
A real honest-to-God citizen journalist. This is Kari Baxter Donovan, and God bless you. That's why I love you, and we'll always have you back.
So, big hugs. Thanks so much. I love chatting with you.
So that's it. KARI Baxter Donovan. It's about time to say time for Tata, I think.
Monsieur has been locked!
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you can find me, and I'm doing a ton of posts these days at my blog, bloviatingzeppelin.net. You can find me on Twitter at bzep, B-Z-E-P. Send me hate mail like everyone else does, bz@shrmedia.com. My original intro music is by Possessed Tranquility at ReverbNation.com. Promotional consideration by Lockheed Martin Skunkworks and the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. And Pratt & Whitney Engines Thrust. You can trust. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team with whom I will be consorting in less than an hour. Thanks ever so kindly to my East Coast political goddess KARI Baxter Donovan for donating a terribly late-night full hour to the saloon tonight. And thank you for listening live. Thank you for being involved in the chat room. Thanks for listening in podcast. Stick around tomorrow night, The Shat Show. God bless. Take care. Be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good
night. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.